Hey there, listeners. Welcome back to another episode of Getting Aligned. I'm your host, JW. I'm the founder of Aligned LLC, your human design therapist, trauma specialist, and somatic coach. There is much that I want to catch you up on. This is an impromptu recording, and I was going to actually be releasing a recorded episode between myself and new clinician in the field that will still be dropping today. You're going to get double dose of love today in your feed. But what I really wanted to do was come on and update you because there's just been so many things, amazing things happening, and things are shifting for me. I just wanted to keep you in the loop. So, over the last couple of months, it's been continuously me following my strategy and my authority, fully committed to it, to the process. That, again, if you are just now coming to the podcast, if you're just now listening, I talk a lot about human design as the one of the pillars in which I live my life by. It is something that I am deeply passionate about. I'm known as a 2-4 projector with splenic authority, and there's so many episodes I have so far about what a projector actually is, what splenic authority is. And obviously, I'm not going to leave you all hanging, even if you have been listening to a lot of this information, going to be through the stories that I have, and I have so many amazing guests that I've done a batch recording of so many different amazing people who are just coming in to share their light with you. And it's something, again, if you're not subscribed, you want to be there when those episodes drop. Season 2 will probably begin to be released after Labor Day and probably my birthday. So I'll probably start releasing those episodes right around that time because obviously my solar return is coming, and so many amazing things are happening. I just, again, wanted to keep you in the loop as to what's happening. That's why I haven't been posting or dropping podcast episodes, because there's just been an amazing amount of experiences that have been happening for me. And there's another episode that I'm going to release. I recorded it probably December of 2022, and I released it. This was when I had my first batch of episodes, when it was all titled Somatic Human Design Podcast, before I changed the name, changed the branding and things like that. And you're seeing in real time these things happening, right? I'm not sugarcoating the entrepreneur journey. I'm not sugarcoating anything. You're all getting the reality of what it's like to not just want to create a podcast or create a company or business, but to actually live, eat, and breathe the values and the mission, right? And sometimes that means, especially as a undefined G center, especially with an undefined G center, I change. Things will change constantly. I don't mean that I'm going to continue to rename business and things like that. I just simply mean, as someone with an undefined G, that's just the way it works for me and my type. And so I just wanted to shed some of that information. I want to release that episode because I want you to literally hear where I was when I sort of gave up on trusting my strategy and my authority, how it has transformed my life, not in a span of a day, but in the span of 4 months. This is what happened in 4 months when I decided to reclaim my decision making, when I decided to trust in my inner compass to guide me and get me from point A to point B. Right. So back in December of 2022, when I last released my episode centering myself, I knew I needed to take a step back because at that time I was teaching as an adjunct professor for the first time. I was fully in entrepreneurship. I was in a business coaching program that I did not want to be in. And I was just lost because I kept telling people, I don't want to do this right now. This started in right when a couple of my first episodes released, I was like getting entrepreneur. I was just now starting as an adjunct professor, and still I had an intern for the first time. I was doing more of private practice, and I was like, let me take a step back from things. Let me take a step back from things that I started to engage in and say that I would do, and did that because I knew I wasn't going to be able to hold all of those responsibilities at the same time of starting all of these new experiences. And that's the difference with being a projector, as well as the difference with having an undefined heart and ego center, specifically with a defined heart and ego center. We're not here to commit to everything. We might say we're willing to do something if you have an undefined, and that's go to your Jovian archive or mybodygraph.com, plug in your correct birth date, birth time, and location information. And when you pull up your body graph, you'll see the triangle that's located where the heart is. That's the heart center. If it's colored in, you are someone that is here to be consistent in what you agree to do. So if you say you're going to wake up and go to the gym at 5 a.m., you're most likely going to be the one that wakes up, goes to the gym at 5 a.m. If it's undefined, it's inconsistent, which means you are not here to commit fully to it unless you have your strategy and your authority bring you to the gym at 5 a.m. But if you wake up and you're like, I'm tired, my authority is saying rest, sleep in, and go at 7, listen to that. So as someone with an undefined heart center or ego center, I committed to a couple of things in that time period. And I was like, I don't want to do this. I actually think it's not a good time for me. And I tried to advocate for myself. And I was just, you're going to be able to do it. I'm going to be able to get you. I'm going to be able to get you some money. You're going to be, and it wasn't about me not believing that I couldn't get money. It was, I'm doing a lot of new things that I want to tend to because these are important. I was just releasing podcast episodes, so that was new. Again, I was adjunct professoring. I was taking on an intern at the same time. I was, trying to scale my business at the same time. Especially with an undefined sacral center, there's not that much energy for me to go. It's not that much for me to go. There's not that much to go around, if that makes sense. But going against my intuition cost me heavily because right around the time I was releasing that episode, I was still trying to push through. I was still trying to commit through programs. And I was like, JW, you need to just back out. You need to get out of these places, rest. You need to recharge because you're burnt out. You're tired. You aren't putting out episodes like you want. You're not discerning you're not discerning what to bring in, what to publish. So this was all happening again in real time. And I released that episode, and it couldn't have been more than 2 weeks after going into 2023, the new year, that I developed Bell's palsy. Here's how my energy works for me. My splenic authority is I have a great immune system. I have a high immune system. So much so that sometimes I might forget to actually go to a medical doctor and get a checkup because my immunity is very high. If you have it defined, you have a really, really good, strong immune system. That center is all about keeping you alive, right? So what that means is your body's working overtime to keep you alive. That doesn't mean you negate it by not going to the hospital and getting follow-ups and checkups and things like that. And because I was running my splenic center through the mud, it couldn't discern anymore what was a good place for me to show up in. It wasn't working in the way that it is designed to work. So because I wasn't trusting my splenic intuition, because I wasn't listening to it, my body tends to flare up and show me just how out of alignment I am if I'm not reminding myself to honor my strategy of waiting for recognition and invitation, and if I'm not following my inner authority of following my splenic whisper. What happened? Bell's palsy. My face paralysis, half side of my face went numb. And I knew that it was the signal of stop, slow down, and rest, because all of a sudden these opportunities that I had before me, I was like, you know what? I'm okay. Yes, I have an invitation to speak at a conference. Yes, I had the invitation to do a couple of workshops between January and May of 2023. I had so many things opening before me, but now the very thing I need to show up, my face, is numb. I had homework assignments that required me to just go online and post and post and post. And I was like, I don't want to post. That's not in alignment with me. I'm doing a podcast. I need to focus on my podcast. But because I kept going against what was for me, these were the energetic repercussions. Then my face is numb. I can't show up online. I can barely talk, right? There's a thing that the universe does, blocks you. It gets in the way when you're out of alignment. I see a lot of people who will say these are just things for you to overcome. And while some of that may be true, for me, sometimes when something isn't able to be obtained, it's a not right now. It's a resistance thing. You are trying to resist what's probably for you by continuing to do what's not for you. How do you live life without resistance? Follow your strategy. For generators and mangens, wait to respond. For manifestors, inform. For reflectors, wait a lunar cycle. For projectors, wait to be recognized and invited. That's how you live life without resistance. Otherwise, you're going to keep experiencing resistance. Your energy is going to keep trying to push against it, and what suffers is your body. And I say this, I hope I've left episodes where I said this. We only get one body. We only get one opportunity to do this in this lifetime. This is treasure the most important resource we have, which is the human body. So when Bell's palsy struck, my energy was like, you aren't learning. And you're following human design and you're studying it and you're giving readings. Now we're going to stop doing readings for you. Now we're going to pull the invitations from you. Now we're going to make it so that you don't get to read for anyone until you reread for yourself, till you commit for yourself, till you learn the intricacies of human design. And I dwindled. Things dwindled for me. Opportunities started to dwindle. Not only did I start to decline on invitations, now they were no longer coming. And then all the invitations that were coming were things I didn't want to do. And I said no. I was like, what did I learn in the last, at that point, it was probably August to December. I mean, what did I just learn? Right? That human design can be an amazing tool to help you elevate, to live life. It is also not something you can use to bypass. And I'm learning about this in the spiritual spaces, that there's a lot of spiritual bypassing, that you can just wake up tomorrow and bypass the reality that we're still humans living a human experience. And I was like, you know what? We're going back to the basics of human design. We're pulling it off. I'm not talking to anybody about it. I'm studying it. I'm learning about me and rest. And that wasn't through the book. That was going back to the body, which is what I've been studying even before human design came into my life. I was already studying somatic experiencing. And I said, go back to the foundations of what you know, which is go back to therapy because you need to talk this out. I had no job, no health insurance, but I invested in therapy. I paid my fee. I think I used a company called, what is it called? It's a company that, I'm going to drop it in the show notes. If you can't afford a full fee, Open Path Collective. If you can't afford the full fee, there are therapists and interns you can work with at a sliding scale. The point is, invest in your healing. Stop playing games and invest in your healing. When you need help, find it, invest in it. And I told myself, I will cut off, which I wasn't even doing. I stopped partying, I stopped going. I couldn't hang out with my friends, declined major events in their life. I was so sad that I couldn't show up because I didn't have the money because all the invitations were pulled from me, right? All the things that I wanted to do were not showing up, were not opening the door for me. And then the things that were opening, I knew would lead me to further bitterness, further burnout. And yes, I said no. Did I still need the money? Absolutely. Did I, if I get this job, I'll be able to show up to all these events? I said that's exactly what I said. And you know what I did say after that? That's not in alignment for me right now. So I have to respectfully decline all of these amazing invitations. And I Don't regret it at all. Even though there was a lot of repercussions, I still don't regret it because here I am now thriving. But I say all that to say, paused, went back to therapy, went back to studying the body. Then I went back to human design. Then I started to pick up astrology. And I said, let's go back to what I wanted to create in a business. What was it I wanted to offer? It wasn't traditional therapy, although in the future I will probably get back into that. I put myself in a retirement, and which I'll talk about later. And I said, okay, what do I want to do? I said, I want to focus on human design and somatic experiencing. Great. Well, why have you stopped taking classes and learning about human design and learning about somatic experiencing? Well, because I was so busy in other things that I committed to and then tried to get out of, but sort of, and there's a thing about coaching that when you say you don't want to do something, just go in and commit to that and say no thank you, because this whole marketing thing that I just don't, and there's so much about human design in business that I can't wait to talk about, because you wouldn't need to be a marketer ever again if you followed your strategy and your authority. If you were truly believing that blessings and things would come back to you, you wouldn't be afraid of people saying they can't do something. There was a coach that worked with me and told me, I hear you, let's do this in the future. And I was like, respect, what? And then there were it was like, oh no, it's fear and it's this, and it's your limiting beliefs. That's your truth, not mine. And I'll never allow someone to hijack my authority again by telling me what I am not feeling, especially undefined emotional. I am not feeling fear. I am feeling annoyance and whatever else emotion I'm feeling, or a physical sensation that I'm feeling. That's not necessarily an emotion. But I let people hijack my authority, and that's what got me into debt. Because up until the summer of last year, my credit score was amazing. I had damn near perfect credit. I worked extremely hard. I woke up every single day of my entire life, from the freaking, at least my adult life, from the age of 18 all the way up until June of 2023, woke up working. Didn't matter if it was 4 jobs, 5 jobs, 6 jobs, 10 jobs. Nobody should ever have to do it, but I did it. And my credit score was amazing. And a result of me simply not following my strategy and my authority crippled me. Then my credit went into the tank. And now all of a sudden, I do believe that I have financial trauma. I'm like, I went to therapy for years. That's not my story, right? But again, this is why, for me, I really discern the types of programs that I'm going into, because a couple of programs would be like, you're Black, you have financial trauma, you need to work. And I'm like, that's not my truth. But then it started to become my truth, right? There's that undefined G center experience. So if you have an undefined G center and you stay in a place for too long, even at your best, when you discern that something's not your truth, when you have an undefined G, unfortunately, it's not about whether you believe it to be your truth, but it, by energy wise, it becomes your truth. So then all of a sudden, I'm operating from a place of scarcity. I'm like, I've never operated from scarcity mindset. I Did I buy the most expensive things? No. Invested in the most expensive things when I want it? Yes. Did I take trips and go on vacations and plan for them when I had the best of financial circumstances? No. But did I come back recharged, ready to dive into my business? Not my business at the time, but did I come back in ready to pour into my clients? Yes. So I never operated from scarcity mindset, but because now I'm in spaces where there's so many people whose energy I can't discern through. One on one, I'm really good at picking up someone's energy. In a group setting, I'm usually sitting with my own for the most part. I mean, there's usually someone that I'm picking up, but I can't discern who because there's so many people around me. And I know this because I'm a group therapist, and so there I understand how energy works in that space as well. But when you have an undefined G, it does energetically become your future truth, right? It's almost like, if I use this analogy again, I probably mentioned this already, but I use this analogy when it comes to our soul and our energy. Imagine we're coming from, I'm probably going to start to say the South Pole, because I probably, especially with political climates and things like that, it might work a little bit better. So this is my new analogy, trying it out with you all. I use this analogy. Our souls are dropped off in the South Pole, and we're all meant to follow our internal compass to get to the North Pole. ooh, I'm making this up on the spot and I love this. We are meant to go following our strategy and our authority to get to the North Pole. The difference is when you have an undefined G center, your journey from the South Pole to the North Pole is going to be an adventurous journey that takes you all across the globe. You're probably going to go to Australia, you're going to go back to Antarctica, you're going to go back to Australia, back to Antarctica, you're going to go to Europe, then you're going to go back to Antarctica, you're probably going to go to the North Pole, and then you're going to go all the way back to Antarctica, and then South America, right? You're just meant to take a longer detoured route to get to that same destination. Whereas when you have a defined G, you consistently are moving towards your purpose, even if you don't know what that is. There's discernment in that. There's not discernment in that. There's understanding in that. Because you have a defined G doesn't always mean you know what your life purpose is. But every decision and choice you make is pulling you towards your North Pole. Where defined Gs get into the mix of challenges is that they too can get washed up in conditioning, washed up in being told, this is what you're supposed to do, this is what you should be doing, X, Y, or Z. The same with, the way an undefined G center is. The difference though with an with a defined G, people can't tell you who you are. You already are who you are. Whereas when you have an undefined G, you're more susceptible to believing what people tell you about yourself, right? So there's a little bit of a difference in that way of direction and who you are and identity, right? So identity and direction, it's either fixed or it is open to learning. It's open to lessons from people around you. However, when you are undefined, you have to protect your environment always, because the wrong environment can take you from going from Antarctica to Australia, and it might put you into a little small island that you weren't meant to ever be on. And then you're on that island without a life raft. You're on that island without access to technology. And now it's going to take you years to build the tools you need to get off that little island to the biggest place that has access to resources that can help you get back on track. And I'm telling you, I just made that up right here in real time. And that is my new analogy. If you have an undefined G center, you are not going straight to a country that has resources. You're going to a small island where there's probably no one there, and you have to build all the resources to get yourself to the next place. And that is going to take you even more time than you probably needed to get from Antarctica to Australia to Asia, right? So I say that to say discernment and where you spend your time, because all of a sudden believing I have this trauma that I'm like, oh my God, I never worked through this. I never worked through that. And it's like, what was the point of me spending 14, 15 years in and out of therapy for me to walk away believing I didn't heal these things or I didn't work through these things? It's not that they don't still play a, it's not that my past experiences with, you know, growing up in an inner city, growing up in a household where there was not always having access to light. And it's not like those things didn't then they come up, right? When I actually have no money coming in, no consistent money coming in, and now I'm scrounging. Now all of my experiences from my childhood are playing a role. But prior to that, that was not my truth. I declare that was not my truth. So if you're a coach and you're listening to this, please be so mindful in your language. If you experience financial trauma, talk about how you experience financial trauma and you use resources to get you out. Don't go into a program saying you all have financial trauma, because then it can become people's truth if they don't have the ability to discern their truth. This is where human design came into the place for me, because I would go into these spaces, I would leave, and then my moment of truth would come and I'd be like, what? Oh, that's not my truth. But then I'd go back the next week and then I'm hearing the same thing. You got financial trauma. And then I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh my God, I got financial trauma. And then I walk out and it's even harder to shake energy, right? And then there's to the point where I'm believing it week after week after week, to the point where now I'm recreating financial trauma in my own life. Does that make sense? I really hope that really you understand. And especially if you have manifesting capabilities, please don't go into places using your voice telling people what's not their truth. Your informing is for you to inform what you've been through and how you've succeeded and what you want in this lifetime. So that is a big, big thing. If you have any defined throat, you also have to be very careful. It's not even just manifestors. Anyone with a defined throat, if you tell people who they are, you are imprinting on them a truth that may not be their truth. And that's 70% of the world that has a defined throat, which means 70% of the world have to master the art of this is my truth. This is what I've experienced. And this is how I've gotten through it. Because the 30% of us who don't have a defined throat, if that person doesn't have the tools, the resources like therapy or somatic experiencing or human design, they don't have that, they can't, or beliefs that help them decipher through these things, they will walk away believing that there's their truth. Okay, so then that happened, right? And now I am hitting financial trauma. Now I'm actually recreating financial trauma in the present. And I'm like, no, I've been through the same song and dance as a child where I had no control, right? I had no control over what resources were available to my mom, rest in peace, at that time in her life. I had no access, I had no say over it, but I do have control over this, right? I use this another analogy that when we become adults, at whatever point that is, some of us are thrust into adulthood in teen years, some of us are thrust into adulthood in later years. Like, it doesn't matter. The moment we become an adult, it's like our parent or our caregiver has now given us the key to our life. And now that we have the key, it is our responsibility to maintenance the car. It is our responsibility to put the tender love and care that our persons didn't give us. And by caregivers, I mean school systems, I mean teachers, I mean parents, aunts, uncles, right? When those adult figures have not taught us how to take care of our car or didn't give us a full tank of gas to get started with life in life. They didn't give us a guide map on how to drive, right? Just because we didn't get those resources doesn't mean we get to stay there on the side of the road when our car breaks down, dangling our keys and saying, well, my mom, my caregiver, this person, that person, they just didn't give me the gas that I needed to get to the next city. You're the adult now. It's your responsibility. This is a hill I will die on. It doesn't matter what's happened. I've been through trauma and abuse from the age of 4 to 18, all forms of abuse by the hands of family member. When we become an adult, when I got kicked out of the house, I took the key and said, I'm going to do this so differently. Just you watch. And I took that key and I drove it to the nearest place. I got a job. I figured out resources. I researched. I got into college, right? Like, I became the adult. The key was in my hand. I'm now responsible for all the things that happen with this car that's meant to get me through life. And so when you get the key, it's your responsibility. And then when I hit this financial headache in June of 2023, I told myself, this is what you got yourself here. I hope you understand that, JW. I hope you understand you going against your own strategy and your authority, you making a decision and committing to the wrong one and not committing to the right ones got you here. Yes, you were in these places that this is what the energy was, but you should have discerned better. You should have known better. And that's a should statement I'll also die on, because I had the wisdom, I had the tools, I had human design right in my pocket, and I chose to go against it even when I was in love with it, and still landed myself side of the road with a nice car that I've gotten since 18. And now I have no ability to drive it anywhere. It's parked, it's stuck, and I have to figure out how to get myself out. So I left my apartment in Jersey City and I got to a friend who gave me a place to stay at a little bit less reduced cost of rent, but it was still an astronomical amount of rent in terms of what income I had coming in. And I made it work. It was hard. There were days where I had absolutely zero energy to get through. But it was through that invitation, and this was an invitation, you can come live here. And I said, invitation. Going back to being a projector, I said, there's the invitation. It's a couple $100 less than what you're already paying. And that was as low as it can go. And I said, I don't even care. I will be on the road. I got back to my Lyft driving. I knew at that time I couldn't take on any more clients as a therapist because my mental health was deteriorating. Therefore, if I would taken on more clients, I would have been putting their life at risk. I stopped talking about human design. I think at that point, I did a couple of readings the previous year, but I was like, I'm not doing any of this. I said, you know what? I'm going to go back to investing in what's actually for me. And drove for Lyft to pay my rent, drove for Lyft to get food, had barely enough money to pay for anything else. I got bills, people calling me. I got this person calling that person. And I'm like, you know what? Y'all get it when you get it. I'm pulling myself back up from, I have the key. That's it. This is the key that I have, and I'm going to use it. And this is the amount of gas I have in my car. I got to drive from this place to that place, literally and figuratively, metaphorically and literally. I just have this amount of gas to get from point A to point B. I invested in another human design reading. I paid my $150, paid it in, I drove for 5 or 6 hours, paid off that $150, got a reading, and reminded myself who I was, reminded myself about my power. And then I invested in, then at that moment, a friend asks me and she says, I'm actually doing something called travel social work. And I had heard about it 2 years ago, but I didn't think that was an alignment for me. It actually wasn't, because I was like teaching and adjunct professoring for the first time and all of that was happening. And I was like, it was at the same time that opportunity actually, wow, that's interesting. So the travel social work idea came to me in 2022, but I was so bogged down with all the things I was already committed to or invested in that I couldn't. Then this comes back and I said, okay, this came back to me once before, and me taking that opportunity helped me to climb myself up out of the financial debt that I had put myself into. And there's still so much work to be done in terms of correcting that experience, but the pay as a travel social worker was comparable to a full month's pay in 2 weeks, right? In 2 weeks, I got a month's worth of pay that I would have gotten in other jobs. And so in a month, I got enough money, twice as much as I would have been making. And that was a 13-week contract. But that was the pivotal moment. And that was where I started recording again. That's where I decided to have my podcast back out again. That's where I started to experiment with my podcast and how I want it to run and how I want it to be aligned with human design and mental health and spirituality and all of these things, because that's all of who I am, not just one person or not just one modality. I have a business that was here long before human design came into my life. I didn't create a business because of human design. And this is where I feel like a lot of things I'm going to see is people that have a business that's just based on this. It's not enough, because this isn't the only tool to help people. People need whatever tools you have at your disposal. And so I didn't create a business just because of human design. I already had one. I just wanted to amplify and elevate the type of services that I gave. And now that I have this opportunity that's helping me financially to pull myself back up, I'm showing myself in real time. You follow your strategy and your authority, and everything starts to come back into fruition for you. And there's still struggle. There's still things that I'm having to overcome because of literally 6 months of a decision that I cannot undo. And it was a lesson, and I had to learn it, because if I didn't learn that lesson, I wouldn't have found that, you know what, human design has so much more validity than even I thought. And the people that I gave reading to 2 years ago, and they're coming back and they're like, I can't even tell you what happened 2 years ago is coming into fruition, or how much I use this to separate from people and get back into business for myself. And I did that because of your reading. And I'm in my head scratching, because I'm thinking the readings I gave 2 years ago are nowhere near what they are now. So for me, it was a reminder that sometimes when people show up and they give you just a little bit, they could be giving you so much. And people that I had not seen in years, or at least in 2 years or a year and some change, would come back and talk about how impactful it was. And I just didn't register And I didn't practice as much gratitude as I wish I did at that time, of being able to say, you know what, when you give people something, you're giving them a whole lot without even knowing it. And there's power in that. And there's gratitude in that. And there's a part of that that you just have to trust sometimes, that one thing that you say can change someone's life. Even if, and I remember this in grad school and forget this every now and again, that sometimes I'm a part of someone's journey and I'm planting a seed, and that seed, I might be a part of their watering process. I might be a part of their, drudging through the dead leaves, or, changing the pot or the soil. I might be giving them sunlight on a cloudy day. I might be giving them water on a hot day. I might be at the end of their journey or at the beginning. And it's beautiful regardless. And I'm grateful. Even if you're listening to this, I'm somewhere in there. And I'm just grateful to be a part of that. And I forgot about honoring that experience that you can give someone without even seeing things transform for them. And I didn't even know this, but the more I dove back into my human design chart and my gates and channels, I was like, oh, this makes sense. I've been a part of so many people's beginnings and middles, or middles and ends, or beginnings and beginnings, the middles to middles, and end to end. That's a part of my purpose. Part of my cross of incarnation, my incarnation cross, is I'm here to get people from one point to the next, and that's it. I'm not here to be a part of their entire journey of going from A to Z. I'm just here to get them from one to the next. And then that's where our energy I need to reassess my energy for that particular invitation. It comes in 3-month waves. And I know that it can take me now 3 months to really help someone transform their life in the way that's internal and meaningful. And at that point, we need to reassess. And so as I revamp my business, especially in the therapy space, it's eventually, when I get back to offering therapy wherever I'm licensed, it's 3-month short-term solution focused work. We're getting you from point A to point B, and that's it. There will be no renewal of a treatment plan. There will be no, let's do this for 6 more. No, you have to go to someone else to learn more tools that someone else out there in the world is meant to give you. We're all meant to do this thing together. Gone are the days where I feel like I have to work with someone for 5-6 years. That's not my energy. I don't have that energy. I literally don't have the energy to be committed to a 9 a.m. session for a year. Because for 3 months I could wake up at 9 a.m. for a Thursday session, and then in 3 months that same 9 a.m. is exhausting to me, right? But that person's committed to it, they want it, and that's where I've learned as a therapist and a healer, I can only do what I can do for the short period of time that I'm here to do it. I'm going to give the person the tools that they need. When I'm doing a human design reading, I'm giving you somatic tools and mental health tools encompassed in that reading to get you through your journey. When I'm doing coaching, we're doing one session, 1 month for 3 months to make sure that you're taking all of these tools and you're actually putting them into practice. And that same thing applies in therapy. If I'm working with someone, I'm giving you homework. If you're not doing the homework, we're going to be terminating. We're going to be ending this relationship, because I just don't have time to walk through that experience of, well, why didn't you do the homework? What is it? And right. And there's a delicate way in which therapists have to navigate that I'm no longer committing to. And I actually don't have to. There's other therapists that will do the long-term work. I just want to help you get the best version of yourself in 3 months, so that whatever's next before you, you can walk alongside someone through that long journey. So stay tuned for when I reopen up for therapy, but that's going to take such a long time, because this is where the exciting announcement comes in. So I was doing a lot of, again, following my strategy, my authority, diving into human design, getting back into the podcast, getting back to social media, putting out content, things that I just naturally love to do, which is travel and help people improve their lifestyle. And just a bunch of job opportunities have come where now I'm going to be going back to the workforce for a little while. I'll still be doing at least 1 or 2 human design readings a week, which is live and face to face. But what I have been leaning more into for human design in terms of reading and coaching people is you can sign up for an appointment, even if it's like a 12 o'clock. Well, the next 2 weeks, I'm still doing live readings, but you can book an appointment for 12, even if you can't do it, and just say, send me a personalized podcast episode for me. What I basically do is I go through your human design chart. We talk about those stuck points you're experiencing. If you're experiencing issues within your career, within your relationships with others, if you're struggling with boundaries in your friendships, if you're struggling with finding that love that you're looking for, I'm not reading someone else's chart. I'm reading your chart and helping you find the strength within yourself to help you get what you're looking for. And the tools, I'm not promising you that you're going to find someone in 3 months. I'm promising you you're going to fall in love with yourself in 3 months. That I am promising. And with that, you're asking a couple of questions that you have, and I'm recording your podcast. I'm recording your reading for you as if I'm giving you a podcast episode where you get access to this and you get to listen and take notes and pause and rewrite and write again and write again and write again. And I love this. And I know a lot of human design readers are going to start to do this because there's a thing where sometimes we're so busy, I as well, that we don't have the ability schedule for a 4 a.m. session because we're not waking up at 4 a.m., right? But with this beautiful option of having this personalized recording, and I'm saying this as if I don't know if people are doing this. I know I don't listen to a lot of human design readers out there because a lot of people are unfortunately really not, they are, I just say you have to discern really well in like who you're listening to, because there's a lot of like people that just aren't understanding the integrity of the system and like just trying to use it as another thing to bypass. And I'm like, you can't bypass the 3D. You can't bypass the 3D. We still have to live a life and experience and learn to learn and practice with a practice. And it's going to take you time to truly get back into who you are. And a lot of people are like, you can be your best self in 3 months. I'm even in my statement, I'm not promising you that you're going to be able to, I'm saying you're going to fall in love with yourself. I'm saying you are going to have tools and wisdom about yourself that are going to better you. If you're already at the end of your healing journey or towards the end of your healing journey, and this is like the icing on the cake, then maybe your life will, maybe that will be the thing for you. But I'm saying my goal in this lifetime is to help people get through some crazy things in their life. And this human design personalized reading is one of my favorite things. And for me, I sent one out. I'm recording this today. You're going to get this today. I'm recording this today, and I gave a reading to a former friend from high school who came back, and this is an old friend, and gave them the personalized recording. And they were like, this was their feedback. I said, part of my feedback, I also want people to fill out surveys because I'm actually taking this into the mental health space. And I'm going to change the field. And I said, how do you feel about the human design system? And this is from a therapist. It says, I think it's extremely spot on. I feel like it allows me to understand myself with less doubt. And also there are 1-3. So this also helps me with a need to lessen my trial and error. I've tested these theories a lot. And this reading was like finding out so much. And their feedback was, I love how authentic it felt. It wasn't judgmental. It wasn't reading verbatim. It allowed me to connect with you, even though it wasn't live. It felt calming and relaxed. Almost felt like a damn tarot reading, but like for the inner parts, no one would know. And I love you so much, my friend. I love that, just because, it just is, I'm experimenting with life and I'm seeing, how do I want to do podcasts? And do I want music intros? I don't want music intros. Like, that's just what everyone else does. And I'm like, I just want to just talk and start it off and go in, right? And I want to be able to offer this type of coaching and this type of therapy and this type of a reading and this type of a healing experience and this type of a container. And I'm just experimenting with it all. It's fun, but I'm doing this because I'm following my inner compass. I am not trying to, because my design, I will naturally experience struggle in this life. That's the one channel I have. it's already going to come to me. So I don't want to call it. I don't want to be sitting in struggle longer than I need to, because I know my energy is to transcend limitations. And I know that I will always, but I also want to have so much freaking fun doing it, because following my design is what makes me feel assured that I'm following my inner compass towards the North Pole. It helps me to feel that I'm guiding the right people that are coming into me, not because I'm forcing myself to help them. Do you want a reading? Do you want this? Do you want that? But simply by me just doing what I'm doing, these invitations have come. What is human design all about? I want a reading. I want to know about it. Like, can I do a mini reading? I'm like, ooh, let me try mini readings out for a little while, right? Let me do tarot readings, which I don't even publicize. But if that's something someone wants, just DM me, right? And it's like, I'm wanting to do these things because I just want to have fun with life, because there's so much more to life than pain and struggle. And I know it because I've lived it. I know it because I walked through the fire with people when they've been experiencing pain. And so honoring my inner compass is so important, because I am so open to the conditioning of who I'm supposed to be, that if I don't follow my strategy and my authority, I'll forget. And if you have a defined G, again, your decisions are, even the ones that are knocking you off of alignment, are also in getting you towards your, for all of us, honestly, all of us, no matter if we have a defined G or an undefined G, the decisions and choices that we're making are lessons. And if we're experiencing resistance, then we need to find strategies to help us get through that resistance. Because sometimes that resistance is the thing that's we're meant to, like the life lesson that we're meant to experience. And sometimes it's our own suffering that we're causing. And I say this with love and kindness, that we need to take a healthy level of accountability, for the pain that we play, or for the role that we play in our own suffering. Because sometimes the resistance that we're experiencing in life is because we're refusing to learn the lesson. And sometimes the resistance in life is because we're meant to learn a lesson. And you have to discern between the two. And you have to honor that who you are may be flexible because you're undefined, or consistent because you're defined. That's the norm for you. Who you love may be consistent in the type of people, that the type of person. If you have a defined G, you generally tend to go after the same person. If you have an undefined G, you're flexible in who you're attracted to. And then, so that G center is all about love, identity, and direction. So with that, it's so important to have the tools and the resources to be able to make sure that inner compass is going towards the North Pole because it's meant to, and it's stopping because it's meant to, versus it's stopping because you're causing the suffering in your life. So that's how you learn to really, again, live life without resistance. You follow your strategy. So these are the 3 things I want you to take away from this, because I fully believe in the importance of following your strategy and your authority, because your compass needs recalibration always. And that's the best way that we recalibrate our compass, is by following our strategy and our authority. And so the 3 things that we need to make sure we're on the right path. What is your strategy, right? What is your strategy? Projectors, it's waiting to be recognized and invited. Generators, it's to respond. Manifestors, it's to inform. Reflectors, it's to wait a lunar cycle. When you follow your strategy, the resistance starts to lessen. It doesn't mean it's going to feel good, because there's conditioning around waiting. There's conditioning around initiating for manifestors and waiting for the other types. But if opportunities go out of the window because you had to wait a lunar cycle, those were not in alignment for you. And I know this because I've coached my friend who's a reflector, and now she's connected with amazing people that I've matched her with, and I've helped her find comfort and truth in her decision making. And now she understands, well, if I wait 29 days and the invitation goes away, that wasn't alignment for me, right? Or she's been waiting 28 days already for that invitation, and the moment someone asked, she was able to say yes because it was right in that specific moment. And I talked with reflectors specifically about the importance of what your strategy and your authority does, and why sometimes you might make a decision, a yes or no in that moment, is because you've probably been lingering on that already for a couple of lunar cycles. And so I work with reflectors on that understanding their strategy and their authority. And with projectors, when you're not invited or recognized by someone, or they're saying, I'm going to come to you for all the tools on how to do this, and that's not what you're here to do, it's almost like you're going to walk away bitter. So I had someone ask me about doing something related to business, and I was like, that's not my specialty. Sorry, but I have so many people that I point you to. And they were like, but I want to work with you. And I'm like, that's just not my specialty. Sorry. Right? What my specialty is how do we use our human design to get us what we need in business, in relationships with self, and relationship with others. And mostly, how do my subspecialty in human design is how do we strengthen our connection with our intuition? And I can't wait to release some of my intuition courses for the design types or for the authority types in the future. So you want to be subscribed and listen for when that drops, because I am so excited. I'm here to help people figure out how to trust their intuition and how to get started on following their intuition. That's my gift in this world. And so you not waiting for recognition as a projector puts you in helping someone that leaves you feeling bitter. Even if you have, sub skills on it, you're going to walk away feeling like, oh, did I really give them everything? Because that's just not your forte, right? I'm not doing my website, not because I can't, but because there's people who have better skill sets at that. And my better skill is being able to say, that's not the color I want to use. That's not the font that I want to use, right? That's where my authority comes in. But all that other stuff that I'm wasting my energy burning through pushes me further out of alignment. I know this because I literally experienced this. And then Bell's palsy came in, right? And then medical issues in 2020 came in when I wasn't following my intuition, even though I didn't know about human design at that point. So follow your strategy because it can literally save your life. And then generators, you're here to listen to what people are saying to you about opportunities that they might have for you. And once you're lit up by the thing that they're actually, one of the many things that they're probably asking you to do, that's your intuition saying, that's the thing I'm going to help you with, right? And then manifestors, you are literally informing what you want to do. I want a human design reading, and then tell that to a human design reader, right? Just because I'm a human design reader and I don't do this, even with my manifestor friends, if you don't tell me you want service from me, I'm not helping you, because I am not bypassing the invitation to be helpful to someone. If you don't say, JW, can you help me? I'm not going to help you, because it lessens my mental space about, is that an invitation or not? I don't know. I'm not deciphering. I'm not a mind reader. A lot of people with the throat definition, they think just saying it is enough. You are saying it to probably someone who's a projector, and they're like, that's not an invitation, right? So it just is a matter of literally knowing, as a manifestor, your strategy is to inform. What do you want? What do you want? Tell the person who you need help from, I would like you to give me a human design reading. We're not doing this whole, I talk about this as a therapist. There's mind reading. There is mind reading. And sometimes I'm fully aware what someone wants from me, but sometimes people want something for free. And I'm like, no, you're going to invest in me just like I invest in you. But the whole concept of mind reading as a distortion is it helps with relationships. It helps with communication, right? While I may be able to read someone's mind because I'm energetically picking up what they want, I'm not going to say something unless they ask me, because that's discernment and that's also boundaries. And so if you are a manifestor, your strategy to live life without resistance is informing and saying, I would like you to do this for me. If that person is capable of doing it, let them do it. They're not, right? But again, if you're all the four types, if you can't follow your strategy and your authority, which your authority is so different, and I go back to my episode on authorities, then you're going to be experiencing resistance. And the second thing that I have for you, so number one is follow your strategy and your authority. Two is just experiment with life. 3 lines have done this, and 3 and 6 lines have done this already for us. They've already been experimenting and learning and stumbling and picking themselves up. We have a lot to learn from them. Don't let them be the only ones out there experimenting. Experiment with it. Have fun. Do what you love, even if it's for a month. There may be a month that I do 5 human design readings in a day because I have a day off and I want to do it because I'm opening my calendar to do it. And there's days where I'm doing nothing for 2 months. I'm not just going to, I can't afford wait for maybe. I'm here to just follow what lights me, because what thing that lights me up, or that thing that I'm passionate about, I'm focusing on it, and something's coming from it. And it may be I'm actually going to be I'm going to be a yoga teacher. I'm in the midst of a yoga teacher training program, and I want to do that in the future, of offering free yoga classes as I get comfortable with it. And so it's like that's what I'm going to that's what I'm going to want to do on a weekend, right? And so it's like I'm just going to experiment with life because it's already prime. We're already primed for struggle. We're going to experience it just by a product of being here. So experiment with life and just have fun. And the third way that you can learn to live life without resistance, get a reading. At this point, if you are on the fence about it and you're like, you know what, I'm not sure if it's for me. I've done readings for people that are 100% against spirituality or astrology or anything, and I could read their testimony, but it's on my page on my Instagram. It's on my podcast Instagram, Aligned HD, and I've helped people who are fully into astrology and are like, this is so much more deeper than astrology ever is, right? Like I've helped people from continuums of people who know nothing about astrology to people who know all about it and people who know a little bit about it who are for it and against it. And at this point, if you're struggling, I can only help you if you invite me to help you. So go book that. And if you want a live reading, you can book it. But if you want a personalized reading, you can just take a slot that's there and just type in their personalized episode, record it. And like that's just the way I'm here to help for now. And as I get revamped for season 2, which I have so many guests on, most of my guests right now are therapists, but I do have coaches, and I'm going to just get more spiritual people and philosophers and other people who just look at the world and say there's so much more to it, and we're not here to be certain that one thing is over the next or one thing is better than the next. I'm just here to say I can do and understand all of these things, and there's a place for all of these things. And then the episode that's going to come out also today is, again, it's a crossover episode of a recording I did, and I love this style of connecting with other podcasters who we share an episode and we use it as both of us. I learned this through my mentors, but I also am so excited about the segments I have coming up on my podcast where you have a story to tell and there's an experience that you've had with a healer or a modality and you want to celebrate it. You can email me hello@alignedhd so that we can amplify these experiences, because I want other people to hear firsthand accounts of like, hey, I tried Reiki and this was my experience. I could talk about it till I turn blue in the face, but other people, feel free to email in so that other people can hear about your experience. Don't put in who, unless you want to. You can share who that person is, where their resource is, and I'm sure we can like figure out a way to like get them to assign, consent for me to put their information in the show notes. But that segment is going to be fun. And then also, if you have an experience within therapy that you're like, I want to know if this is ethical, unethical, or bad practice, then you can also email me hello@alignedhd.com, because as a therapist by training, I see a lot of people spreading misinformation about how therapists are supposed to be versus what our ethics say. And so in season 2, some of my therapist friends are going to come on. We're going to just talk about from a social work lens or a marriage and family therapist lens or professional counseling lens or a psychologist lens or psychiatric nurse lens or a psychiatrist lens or substance use lens. Like we're going to talk about what are the themes that are coming up, because not everything is bad practice. Not everything's unethical. And then some things are unethical and some things are bad practice. And also, sometimes people have questions about, well, how do I start a therapy session? And I'm going to talk about that in season 2. So this is going to come out today. The other episode is going to come out today, because you'll have 2 things to hold you over. And then get ready or 3 episodes are going to come out before season 2 starts. So this one, my collab episode, and then the episode where you hear in my voice, I hope, the pain that I was going through and where I'm at now versus where I was in December of 2022. So I'm excited for all of this. And I just wanted to come in and record this because I really do want it's so important for me to emphasize what happens when we don't navigate our internal compass, when we don't navigate our G center in a way that really is in alignment for us. Then we are off, and we will be off, and we will influence other people to be off, or we will feel it twice as much, or whatever happens, depending according to your designing your gates and your channels. But thank you so much for listening to another episode of Getting Aligned. You know the jazz. Like, subscribe, rate, leave a review. If you've left a review on Apple, if you started, you can update the written review as well. You don't have to just do it one time, but all that really helps me to push this out further so that I can help inspire and guide others in a way that I'm meant to. Other than that, I'll see you super soon and get ready for season 2 episodes coming into your feed.